All right, before we start painting, I would like to just take a few moments to talk about our parasympathetic nervous system, along with our sympathetic nervous system. So this is something that you may or may not be aware of. I'm just going to talk about it in kind of simple detail here, but it's something for us to really understand about ourselves. We all have the same kind of nervous system within our being, and at times it can be triggered. Our parasympathetic and our sympathetic can become a little bit out of balance in times of anxiety or fear or high stress. So I'd like to just take a quick look at this nervous system so that we can better understand ourselves and learn some tools to keep our parasympathetic nervous system nice and strong and activated. A big part of this course is spent on looking at our parasympathetic nervous system, when it is triggered for us. How strong is it? Do we use it often enough? Do we engage it often enough? We can strengthen this nervous system just like we can strengthen a muscle in our arm with exercises. And so we're going to go through some of that, but it's important to understand what this is all about. So a real quick, simple biology lesson here. Our bodies all have something called an autonomic nervous system. And this is the nervous system within our bodies that regulates our heartbeat, our breathing rate, our blood pressure, and a whole bunch of other things. When we experience a stressful situation, our autonomic nervous system switches on and triggers that fight, flight, or freeze response. So has that ever happened to you where all of a sudden something happens and you're so triggered that you want to fight back, defend yourself, be safe? Or you might want to just run for your life, just get out of there. Or you might just freeze. And you can't talk. You freeze. This is all part of that autonomic nervous system being triggered. These feelings of fight, flight, or freeze, that response is absolutely automatic. It happens within our body. We're programmed that way. So it's an automatic response. And it controls how much cortisol and how much adrenaline is released into our system. It increases blood pressure, it increases our breathing rate. During these times of high stress, you might find that your palms get sweaty, or maybe you get a migraine headache, or maybe your stomach clenches up and you just feel really sick. You may find sometimes your voice clenches up or gets a little bit shaky and you can't control it. These are all physical manifestations of anxiety. However, our bodies have a counterbalancing system, a force built right in, and it's called the parasympathetic response. And I know that sounds like a big mouthful, parasympathetic nervous system, but don't worry, just stick with me and this will become more and more familiar to you. When I was first learning about my parasympathetic nervous system, I would often think of parachute, because I would think of your parasympathetic is really part of your nervous system that is there to help slow down and ease your stress and help you focus. It helps keep you covered and safe, helps you be gentle with yourself, and it can help really keep you safe and grounded. And so I think of a parachute. It's like it floats so gently down but keeps us nice and covered and secure, and slows us down from that free fall. So parachute, parasympathetic. That's how I learned to remember the parasympathetic nervous system. But it really does do that, just like a parachute. It's our body's way of naturally slowing down and creating that grounded sense of safety. So your parasympathetic nervous system kind of works like this. If your brain thinks that you are in a dangerous situation, whether that be a bear attack or public speaking, whatever it is, if you're feeling in danger, your body might trigger that fight, flight, or freeze reaction. But when that dangerous situation is resolved and your brain knows that you're safe, your body then triggers a parasympathetic response. And this is also sometimes called rest and digest. It's called this because as your body starts to relax and it transitions from that fight, flight, or freeze response to a more relaxed state of being, and your other systems, which may have temporarily been shut off during that stressful time, now start to come back and wake up and become balanced. Digestion is often one of these, where things will kind of slow down and stop for a bit, but then once your body's feeling more balanced and stable, then that one starts to kick back in and wake back up, and your body starts to function normally again. Your breathing automatically slows down, your blood pressure lowers to a normal rate, your immune system turns back on, and you have the ability to relax and slow down and allow your body to heal. And like I said, this is all automatic, this transitional state between our parasympathetic nervous system and our sympathetic nervous system. And we'll talk about this in a little bit more detail going forward. But it's important to realize that this is an automatic process that just happens within us. And at times, it can feel like we're losing control because it is automatic. It's happening whether we want it to happen or not. So just know that this is a function of our body. It's how we keep ourselves safe. It's how we communicate with our brain and our nerves and our emotions, our feelings. It's primal. It's the way we tick. But with some training, you can actually teach your body to kick on that parasympathetic response and do it at the time when you very first need it, right in that moment of stress. We can teach our bodies to tap in to that parasympathetic response earlier than it would automatically happen. And to do this, it's important that we mention the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the autonomic nervous system, and it does really two important things. Number one, the vagus nerve can trigger the parasympathetic response that we want. We want to be able to do that. We want to be able to control that. So with that vagus nerve, we can do that. Number two, the vagus nerve transmits signals in both directions, so up and down. It starts at your brainstem and goes all the way down to your sacral, almost to your tailbone. And that nerve transmits signals both ways. So from your sacral spinal cord all the way up to your brainstem, and from your brainstem all the way down to your sacral spinal cord. So the fact that the vagus nerve transmits signals in both ways gives us a lot of ability to tap in and kind of rewire signals when needed. And when these signals are being transmitted back and forth, up and down our body, our brain is telling our body about whether or not to be stressed out or calm. Our body is telling our brain whether or not to be stressed out or calm. So it's a two-way communication that's happening there. And the beauty here is that we can tap into that parasympathetic response. We can build that nervous system, make it a little bit stronger, like I was saying, just like we can with our physical bodies. And when we strengthen this ability, we can transmit signals up and down our vagus nerve, our body telling our brain, it's okay, you're going to be okay, you're safe. It could be our brain telling our body, don't you worry, everything's okay. So we have that ability to tap into that parasympathetic nervous system before we crash and burn in that stressful anxiety state. So we can use that parasympathetic nervous system to indeed lower our anxiety levels, lower our stress levels, and live a more calm and balanced life. There are a number of body calming techniques that we can use that will help us learn to send calming messages from our body to our brain and from our brain to our body. And you can learn to better help regulate your emotions in stressful situations. Let's take a minute to do a quick visual recap here. Okay, let's take a quick look at our parasympathetic nervous system, along with our sympathetic nervous system. These two are like buddies, best friends. They work very, very closely together. And both of these guys are part of the autonomic nervous system. So that's what they fall under, the autonomic system. And that nervous system is part of your peripheral nervous system. It's important to note that our parasympathetic and our sympathetic nervous systems work really closely with one another, and they balance each other out like a yin and yang. Both of these nervous systems are equally important in keeping our bodies and our minds healthy and whole. And here's a quick look at our nervous system and where it kind of lies within our body. So this is a view of our brain, the brain stem right here at the base of our brain. And then very far down, we've got our sacral spinal cord. And we talked about that vagus nerve. And that nerve runs all the way from our brain stem down to that sacral spinal cord. But it has lots of filaments along the way that reach out throughout our body, up and down and all around, and affect many of the different organs and feelings throughout. Also closely related to the function of our parasympathetic nervous system is the pelvic nerve. And this nerve affects our abdominal area, digestion, and feelings of groundedness and safety. I hope that you found that little drawing helpful. When it comes to the parasympathetic nervous system, 75% of the work happens within the vagus nerve. So that nerve starts right there at our brainstem, goes all the way down, filaments and fingers going throughout our body. And it's important to know that and just have a basic visual, I think, as we go forward through life and throughout this course. So we will be painting in our next segment. So get some of your supplies together. And prior to that, if you feel inclined, I invite you to check out some of the videos that I have attached to this lesson segment. These videos talk a little bit more about the parasympathetic nervous system, the science behind it, if that is something that you feel like you want to learn further. There are some resources there, so check those out if you feel inclined. And throughout this course, I invite you to really dive into the different exercises that I'm going to leave you with. There's a number of exercises that are kind of sprinkled throughout this course, and they are all designed to strengthen your parasympathetic nervous system. All right, so these are good exercises that we can incorporate into our daily lives very, very easily. And when you do, it can be life-changing. I look forward to getting creative with you in the next segment. Thank you for being here. Namaste.